The morning fog rolled across Naval Special Warfare Command in Coronado as another brutal training day began. SEAL candidates stumbled from their barracks before dawn, muscles aching from yesterday's punishment, minds steel for whatever fresh hell awaited them. Among the support staff moving through the compound was someone who had become invisible through months of routine, a blonde woman in faded coveralls carrying a maintenance toolbox. Nobody knew her secret. Nobody suspected that the quiet civilian contractor fixing their broken equipment possessed skills that would shame most of their instructors. What they were about to discover would shatter everything they thought they understood about capability, identity, and earning respect in America's most elite military unit. Welcome to those who left a trace. Before we dive into this incredible story of hidden identity and the moment when a secret was revealed in the most dramatic way possible, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from today? And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button. These are the tales that remind us never to judge by appearances alone. Rebecca Hayes had been working as a maintenance contractor at the SEAL compound for 8 months. Every morning at 0700, she signed in at the security desk with a worn ID badge that identified her as civilian support staff. Every evening, she signed out having completed another day of invisible service, fixing air conditioners, replacing light bulbs, servicing equipment that kept the massive training facility operational. The SEAL instructors treated her with polite indifference. The candidates, when they noticed her at all, saw just another civilian who didn't understand the crucible they were enduring. Some made occasional comments about having a woman around their training environment, jokes that Rebecca absorbed in silence before returning to her work. Her supervisor, Chief Petty Officer Martinez, had nothing but praise for her work ethic. She arrived early, stayed late when needed, and completed every task with meticulous attention to detail. Her background check had come back clean. Previous employment with military contractors, solid references, no red flags. Just another competent civilian, keeping the wheels of military bureaucracy turning. But there were details that might have raised questions if anyone had been paying closer attention. The way Rebecca carried herself with unconscious military bearing despite her civilian status. How she never seemed lost or overwhelmed navigating the compound's most secure areas. The automatic way she scanned exits and cover positions when entering any room. Most telling was how she moved through Hell Week training areas without the discomfort most civilians showed when witnessing the apparent brutality of SEAL selection. Her observations weren't those of someone watching torture. They were professional assessments of training methodology by someone who understood its purpose. Lieutenant Commander Jake Peterson was the first to notice something unusual about Rebecca Hayes. As officer in charge of the current SEAL class, Peterson prided himself on situational awareness. These qualities had kept him alive through multiple deployments and made him an effective instructor. It was during a surf torture session that Peterson first realized Rebecca was different. The candidates were lying in the frigid Pacific, while instructors screamed about teamwork and mental toughness. Most civilians avoided this training, finding it disturbing. But Rebecca was nearby, ostensibly repairing equipment, observing with professional interest rather than civilian discomfort. When Ensign Williams began showing hypothermia signs, Peterson was preparing to intervene. But Rebecca moved first, approaching with confident steps and catching Peterson's eye with a look that communicated volumes. "Sir," she said quietly, "that candidate needs immediate attention. Core temperature dropping, early hypothermia, approximately 3 minutes before serious intervention required." Peterson stared. The assessment was not only correct, but delivered with precision that suggested extensive cold weather and medical training. This wasn't civilian concern. This was professional evaluation. Williams, out of the water, Peterson ordered, "Medical check, now." As medics confirmed Rebecca's assessment, Peterson found himself studying the woman who had made the call. She had returned to her repair work as if nothing happened, but something fundamental had changed in how he perceived her. "That was good observation," Peterson said afterward, keeping his tone neutral. "You have medical training?" Rebecca looked up with steady green eyes that seemed far older than her face suggested. "Some." "Military medical training?" A pause. "Some." Peterson recognized the pattern. Minimal responses, careful deflection, the way special operations personnel, were trained to handle background inquiries. Standing closer, Peterson noticed details he'd missed before. Her hands were callous in patterns that came from extensive weapons handling. Her forearms showed faint scars that looked like shrapnel marks. Most significantly, the barely visible edge of what appeared to be a tattoo below her left collarbone. "What's your actual background, Hayes?" Rebecca straightened to full height, her bearing unmistakably military despite civilian clothes. "Civilian contractor, sir. Facility maintenance." But everything about how she said it contradicted the words. Peterson had spent years around special operations personnel. He recognized the type: calm under pressure, hyper-aware, capable of instant assessment and decisive action. That evening, Peterson used a security clearance for a deeper background check on Rebecca Hayes. What he found confirmed his suspicions. Clean but sparse employment history. References that checked out but seemed too perfect. Most significantly, timeline gaps explained by vague references to overseas contract work. Peterson had seen enough sanitized backgrounds to recognize one. Rebecca Hayes was operating undercover, and given her presence at a SEAL facility, that suggested very interesting possibilities. The breakthrough came when Chief Warrant Officer Kim mentioned receiving queries about facility security from someone with very high classification levels. Someone with serious clearance wanted to know about civilian contractor protocols. Kim said, background screening, access procedures. Peterson felt pieces clicking into place. If Rebecca was conducting security assessment, it would explain everything: her military bearing, professional evaluation of training, her presence at one of the military's most sensitive facilities. But that theory was about to be tested in ways Peterson couldn't imagine. The crisis began at 0347 hours with an emergency alert that sent Naval Special Warfare Command into lockdown. A training helicopter carrying 6 SEAL candidates and 2 instructors had crashed in remote mountains during a night navigation exercise. Peterson was among first responders called to the Emergency Operations Center, where Commander Mitchell was coordinating rescue efforts. The situation was grim. Crash site in remote canyon accessible only on foot, deteriorating weather, no radio contact since the initial Mayday. Rescue teams mobilizing, Mitchell announced, but terrain and weather are against us. Earliest we can get personnel on site is 4 hours. For hours might as well be forever for seriously injured personnel in remote terrain. Everyone understood the window for saving lives was closing rapidly. That's when Rebecca Hayes walked into the operations center. She wasn't supposed to be there. Civilian contractors weren't included in emergency operations. But she moved with such purposeful confidence that initially nobody questioned her presence. "Commander," she said, approaching Mitchell directly, "I need to see terrain maps and crash coordinates." Mitchell looked up, surprised to see a civilian contractor during a crisis briefing. "Ma'am, this is restricted dash." "Commander," Rebecca interrupted, her voice carrying new authority Peterson had never heard. "We don't have time for protocol. Show me the maps." Something in Rebecca's bearing made Mitchell hesitate rather than ordering security to remove her. Peterson watched fascinated as the room's dynamic shifted around Rebecca's presence. "Crash site is here," Mitchell said finally, pointing to the display. "Remote canyon, no road access. Helicopter landing unavailable due to terrain and weather." Rebecca studied the map with professional intensity, tracing elevation lines with the practiced gaze of someone trained in tactical assessment. "4-hour response time?" she asked. "Minimum. Probably longer given conditions." Rebecca studied the terrain display silently. When she spoke, her voice carried absolute certainty. "There's a faster route. This ridgeline provides access in approximately 90 minutes with properly equipped personnel." Mitchell frowned. "That route crosses extremely difficult terrain. Would require advanced mountaineering skills and specialized equipment." "Yes," Rebecca agreed simply. "We don't have personnel immediately available with that skill set. Our mountain rescue specialists are deployed overseas." Rebecca straightened, and Peterson saw something change in her posture. The careful civilian demeanor she'd maintained for months evaporated, replaced by something harder and more focused. "Commander, I volunteer to lead the rescue team." The operations center fell silent. a civilian contractor, had just volunteered to lead a high-risk rescue into terrain that had stumped military planners. "Ma'am," Mitchell said carefully, "you're not qualified, Dash." "Commander," Rebecca interrupted, "I'm qualified for whatever needs to be done. The question is whether you're willing to let me prove it." Peterson watched the exchange with growing amazement. This wasn't the quiet maintenance worker he'd observed for months. This was someone else entirely, someone with the confidence of an elite operator. Mitchell looked around the room, torn between protocol and desperate need to save lives. Finally, she made a decision that would reveal just how wrong everyone had been about Rebecca Hayes. "Gear up. 15 minutes to prove you know what you're talking about." What happened next became legend throughout Naval Special Warfare Command. Rebecca didn't head to standard equipment rooms where contractors might access basic safety gear. Instead, she walked directly to the secure armory, where only special operations personnel were authorized advanced tactical equipment. Chief Rodriguez initially moved to block her access. "Ma'am, this area is restricted dash." Rebecca pulled out a small leather wallet and showed Rodriguez something that made his eyes widen and his posture snap to attention. "Yes, ma'am. Whatever you need." Peterson caught a glimpse of what Rebecca had shown, some kind of ID with classification markings he didn't recognize. But Rodriguez's reaction told him everything. Rebecca Hayes carried credentials that trumped normal protocol. What followed was a masterclass in tactical preparation. Rebecca selected equipment with practice efficiency, advanced climbing gear, specialized communications, medical supplies, and weapons definitely not standard for rescue operations. She suited up in tactical gear that fit perfectly, suggesting this wasn't her first time wearing such equipment. The transformation was remarkable. The quiet contractor had disappeared, replaced by someone who looked every inch the elite operator. Peterson watched as Rebecca checked equipment with systematic thoroughness he recognized from years of pre-mission preparation. Every piece was inspected, tested, positioned with military precision. "Ready," she announced after exactly 14 minutes. Mitchell stared at Rebecca's transformation. "Who are you, really?" Rebecca's smile was enigmatic. "Someone who doesn't leave people behind." The helicopter couldn't land at the crash site due to terrain and weather, so Rebecca would fast rope into the canyon, while Peterson and medical teams followed via ground route. It was dangerous, requiring split-second timing and flawless execution. At the drop zone, Rebecca moved the cabin door with fluid grace, secured a rappelling line that would allow direct descent into the canyon. "See you on the ground," she told Peterson, then disappeared into swirling mist below. Rebecca landed with controlled precision of someone who'd made hundreds of similar insertions. She immediately began moving toward the crash site with tactical awareness that would have impressed the most experienced operators. The wreckage was worse than aerial reconnaissance suggested. The helicopter had impacted hard against the canyon wall before rolling down a steep slope. Twisted metal groaned ominously, and smoke still hung in the air. Rebecca approached with systematic caution, checking for signs of life while remaining alert for hazards. Aviation crashes were inherently dangerous. Fuel leaks could ignite, unstable wreckage could collapse. "This is Rebecca Hayes with Naval Special Warfare Command." She called out, "Can anyone hear me?" A weak voice responded from inside the twisted cabin. "Here, 2 conscious, others hurt bad." Rebecca quickly assessed the situation. The helicopter rested on its side with cabin partially crushed, but intact enough to provide protection. However, the aircraft was balanced precariously on a steep drop-off, held only by tangled tail section wreckage. Moving carefully to avoid destabilization, Rebecca reached where she could see inside. 6 personnel were visible. 2 conscious but injured, 3 unconscious but breathing, 1 instructor trapped beneath collapsed bulkhead, showing no signs of life. "I'm getting you out," Rebecca told the conscious survivors, voice carrying calm authority. "Stay exactly where you are until I say move. This aircraft is unstable. Sudden movement could send us over the edge." Working methodically, Rebecca began stabilizing the wreckage and creating safe extraction routes. She used climbing gear to secure anchor points, preventing the helicopter from sliding further, then began cutting through twisted metal to access trapped personnel. This was where her expertise became apparent. Rebecca wasn't just performing rescue. She was conducting complex technical operation requiring skills in structural engineering, emergency medicine, tactical problem solving. Every cut was calculated to maintain stability while providing survivor access. Apply pressure to that wound, she instructed one conscious candidate. Use his shirt as pressure bandage. Keep talking to him. Consciousness good, unconsciousness bad. The critical moment came when Rebecca realized one unconscious survivor, Ensign Martinez, was showing internal bleeding signs requiring immediate intervention. Rebecca made a controversial but necessary decision. She performed emergency field surgery inside the twisted aircraft, using her tactical medical kit to stop bleeding that would have been fatal within minutes. Working by flashlight in cramped, unstable environment, Rebecca demonstrated medical skills far beyond what any civilian contractor should possess. Her movements were precise, confident, devastatingly effective. "How do you know how to do this?" asked one conscious survivor, watching in amazement. "Long story," Rebecca replied without looking up. "I'll tell you when we're not hanging off a cliff." By the time Peterson's ground team reached the crash site, Rebecca had stabilized all survivors and prepared them for extraction. The scene was remarkable. A civilian contractor had single-handedly conducted complex rescue that would have challenged experienced special operations personnel. Status report. Peterson called out, 6 survivors, all stable for transport, Rebecca replied. 2 critical but viable, 3 serious but stable, 1 minor injuries. Aircraft secured but remains unstable. Recommend immediate helicopter hoist evacuation. Peterson stared at the organized rescue scene Rebecca had created. Every survivor properly stabilized, aircraft wreckage secured with climbing gear, life-saving medical procedures performed on multiple casualties. "How did you—" Peterson began. "Later," Rebecca interrupted. "Right now we get these people to a hospital." The helicopter extraction proceeded flawlessly, with Rebecca coordinating the complex process of hoisting stretcher cases from difficult terrain. She remained on ground until every survivor was safely evacuated, then was last person extracted. During the flight back, Peterson observed Rebecca with new eyes. This was clearly someone with extensive special operations experience, but her cover had been so complete nobody had suspected. As they approached base, Peterson asked a question burning in his mind. "Who are you really?" Rebecca looked at him with steady green eyes, and for the first time since he'd known her, gave a completely honest answer. "Someone who's been watching to make sure you're training the right people the right way." The debriefing that followed would reshape how Naval Special Warfare Command understood oversight, assessment, and earning respect through capability rather than rank. Commander Mitchell conducted initial debriefing in a secure conference room with only Peterson and Chief Rodriguez present. Questions started with logistics, but quickly moved into complex territory. "Hayes, your performance was extraordinary," Mitchell began. "That skill level doesn't come from contractor training." Rebecca sat calmly, still wearing tactical gear from rescue. The transformation from maintenance worker to elite operator was so complete it was hard to believe they were the same person. "No, ma'am, it doesn't. So I'll ask directly, what's your actual background?" Rebecca reached into her vest and pulled out a sealed folder, placing it deliberately on the table. "Ma'am, I'm Lieutenant Commander Rebecca Hayes, United States Navy SEALs. I've been conducting comprehensive assessment of training protocols and security procedures at this command for 8 months. The silence was profound. Peterson felt his understanding of 8 months completely reorganized around this information. Mitchell opened the folder carefully. Inside were credentials, orders, documentation confirming Rebecca's identity and mission. Her expression shifted from surprise to amazement to something approaching awe. "Your active duty SEAL," Mitchell said finally. "Yes, ma'am. Assigned to Naval Special Warfare Development Group. My mission was unobserved assessment of training effectiveness, security protocols, candidate evaluation procedures." Peterson leaned forward. The maintenance job was cover? Complete cover identity. Goal was observing normal operations without artificial behavior that occurs when personnel know they're being evaluated. Mitchell continued reading Rebecca's file. "According to this, you've been in the teams 12 years. multiple deployments, advanced qualifications. Jesus, Hayes, this reads like Special Operations Greatest Hits. Rebecca remained modest. I've been fortunate to serve with exceptional teams, ma'am. Fortunate? Peterson laughed. You're one of the most qualified operators in the entire SEAL community. Medical training, explosives expert, mountaineering instructor, combat diving supervisor. How did none of us recognize what we were looking at? Rebecca's smile was slight, but genuine, because you saw what you expected. A civilian contractor doing maintenance. People rarely look beyond surface appearances, especially when they conform to expectations. Mitchell closed the file. What were your conclusions about our program? Overall assessment positive, Rebecca replied. Training standards appropriate. Safety protocols generally effective. Candidate evaluation thorough. However, some areas need improvement. Over the next hour, Rebecca provided comprehensive briefing on observations and recommendations. Her insights were precise, actionable, demonstrating understanding that came from years at the highest levels. Most important finding, Rebecca concluded, is that this command has maintained warrior ethos that makes SEALs effective. Candidates who succeed don't just meet physical standards. They demonstrate character and mental toughness that define special operations. Mitchell nodded. And those who don't succeed, they fail for right reasons. Not arbitrary hazing or artificial barriers, but because they lack fundamental qualities required. Selection process works as intended. Peterson had been quiet, processing implications. Finally, he asked a question bothering him. Why reveal yourself now? Your cover was perfect. You could have completed assessment without anyone knowing. Rebecca's expression became serious. Because the rescue required capabilities I couldn't provide while maintaining cover. Lives were at stake. That takes precedence over mission security. So you compromise your mission to save those personnel? I fulfill my mission, Rebecca corrected. Purpose of any assessment is determining whether personnel and procedures can accomplish the mission under real conditions. Today proved this command can adapt, improvise, succeed when facing unexpected challenges. Mitchell understood immediately. You're saying our response, including accepting help from unknown source, demonstrated exactly the flexibility special operations requires. Exactly. Willingness to trust capability over protocol, adapt to circumstances, prioritize mission success over bureaucratic convenience. Those qualities define effective special operations personnel. As debriefing concluded, Peterson realized Rebecca's assessment had tested far more than training procedures. It had evaluated fundamental character of everyone at the command. Word of Rebecca's identity spread quickly but respectfully through Naval Special Warfare Command. Personnel who'd worked with her found themselves reassessing every interaction when they dismissed her as just another civilian. The crash survivors were among first to seek out Rebecca after hospital release. Ensign Martinez, whose life she'd saved through emergency surgery, approached with visible emotion. Ma'am, I need to thank you for what you did in that aircraft. Rebecca waved off formality. You don't need to thank me, Martinez. You would have done the same. No, ma'am, I wouldn't have. I didn't have skills, knowledge, experience to save anyone. What you did wasn't just training. That was something else entirely. Rebecca studied the young ensign's face, seeing maturity that comes from facing mortality. What you experience in that aircraft is what every SEAL faces eventually. Situations where training meets reality. Everything you've learned gets tested under conditions you never imagined. The fact you're standing here means you pass the test. Martinez nodded. Understanding Rebecca was giving him something more valuable than gratitude, perspective on what it meant to be a SEAL. Chief Martinez, who'd supervised Rebecca's maintenance work, approached with a mixture of amazement and embarrassment. Ma'am, I owe you an apology for treating you like a civilian contractor, for not recognizing what I was looking at. Rebecca's expression was gentle but firm. Chief, you have nothing to apologize for. You treated me exactly as my cover required. If you'd recognized me as anything other than contractor, I would have failed my mission. But the work I had you doing, fixing door handles, changing bulbs, was necessary work that needed doing, Rebecca finished. It gave me access to every part of this facility, allowed observing operations without interfering, provided 8 months of unfiltered observation. You couldn't have been more helpful if you'd known my real identity. Martinez still looked uncomfortable. Doesn't seem right, having someone of your qualifications doing maintenance. Rebecca's response became one of the most quoted statements in naval special warfare history. Chief, there's no such thing as work beneath a SEAL's dignity. We do whatever mission requires, whether conducting deep reconnaissance or fixing broken air conditioning. The work doesn't define us. How we approach it does. This philosophy became a defining principle influencing training for years to come. Commander Mitchell convened formal review board to examine Rebecca's recommendations. The board included senior officers, training specialists, medical personnel who could evaluate technical aspects. Most critical recommendation concerns emergency response procedures, Rebecca told the board. The helicopter crash revealed gaps in rapid response capabilities that could have been fatal under different circumstances. She presented detailed analysis identifying areas where improved procedures, equipment, training could have reduced response time and improved outcomes. We were fortunate weather and terrain allowed helicopter access. But we need preparation for scenarios where conventional rescue isn't available. Her recommendations included enhanced mountain rescue training, improved emergency medical capabilities, establishment of rapid response teams for high-risk rescue in difficult terrain. But the most significant recommendation concerned psychological aspects. Most important factor in yesterday's success wasn't equipment or procedures. It was willingness of personnel to adapt, trust capability over protocol, prioritize mission success over organizational hierarchy. She looked directly at Mitchell. When you allowed a civilian contractor to lead rescue operations, you demonstrated tactical flexibility that defines effective special operations leadership. That decision saved lives. Mitchell understood broader implications. You're saying rigid adherence to protocol can be counterproductive in emergencies. I'm saying special operations personnel must be trained to evaluate situations independently and make decisions based on capability and necessity, rather than rank or organizational charts. Yesterday proved this command as personnel who can do exactly that. The board's final report led to significant changes in training protocols throughout naval special warfare and established principles of adaptive leadership influencing special operations training across all service branches. As Rebecca prepared to conclude her assignment and return to SEAL Team 6, she reflected on what the experience had taught about leadership, identity, bonds connecting military personnel across ranks and specialties. The farewell gathering was unlike anything typically held for departing personnel. Officers and enlisted, instructors and candidates, active duty and contractors, all came together to honor someone who'd served in disguise for 8 months and revealed herself only when lives depended on it. Lieutenant Commander Hayes, Mitchell addressed Rebecca during the ceremony. What you accomplished went far beyond original mission parameters. You evaluated our training, but also demonstrated highest ideals of naval service, selfless sacrifice, professional excellence, unwavering commitment to fellow service members' welfare. Mitchell looked around at gathered personnel. More importantly, you reminded us that respect is earned through actions, not rank or recognition. You worked among us 8 months, contributing in ways large and small, asking for nothing but opportunity to serve. The response was immediate and heartfelt, applause lasting several minutes, demonstrating genuine respect Rebecca had earned. The most meaningful recognition came from crash survivors who prepared a presentation capturing what Rebecca's service had meant. Martinez, still recovering but determined to participate, spoke for fellow survivors. Ma'am, what you did went beyond saving our lives. You showed us what it means to be a SEAL. Not just physical capabilities or technical skills, but character and commitment that define who we are. He presented Rebecca with custom challenge coin bearing naval special warfare insignia on one side and simple inscription on the other. Courage, honor, commitment, Rebecca Hayes, SEAL. This coin represents something that can't be awarded through official channels, Martinez explained. It represents respect and gratitude of everyone whose life you've touched. Recognition from your peers, the only recognition that truly matters in the SEAL community. Rebecca accepted the coin with visible emotion, understanding she was being given something far more valuable than any official decoration. "Thank you. Serving with all of you has been the honor of my career." As the ceremony concluded, Peterson approached for final conversation. "What's next?" Rebecca smiled. "Back to SEAL Team 6. We have interesting operations requiring the skills I've been developing. Any regrets about revealing your identity? Compromising your cover?" Rebecca looked around at gathering personnel, many still processing implications of her 8-month assessment. "No regrets. The mission was evaluating this command's readiness and capability. The emergency proved this command is ready for anything, including adapting to unexpected circumstances and trusting capability over protocol." Peterson understood Rebecca's assessment had been far more comprehensive than originally realized. "Would you do it again?" 8 months in disguise, observing from shadows. Rebecca's answer captured the essence of being a SEAL. Someone willing to do whatever mission required, regardless of personal recognition or comfort. In a heartbeat. The privilege of serving with personnel of this caliber? That's not sacrifice, that's honor. As Rebecca departed the next morning, she left behind more than assessment reports and procedure recommendations. She left a legacy of service that would influence training and leadership development for years. More importantly, she demonstrated that most effective leaders often serve quietly in background, earning respect through competence and character rather than rank or recognition. The story of Rebecca Hayes became naval special warfare folklore, told to new SEAL classes as example of embodying warrior ethos. Her influence extended beyond inspiring stories into practical changes improving training effectiveness and safety. 6 months later, crash survivors completed SEAL training and received trident pins in ceremony honoring both their achievement and the woman who'd saved their lives. Each carried forward lessons Rebecca had taught, not just tactical skills, but character and commitment defining true special operations personnel. Martinez, now assigned to SEAL Team 4, quickly distinguished himself as medic with exceptional emergency response capabilities. Teammates commented on his unusual calm under pressure and ability to perform life-saving procedures in impossible conditions. When asked about training, Martinez would simply say he'd learned from the best. During his first deployment, Martinez encountered situation testing everything Rebecca had taught about leadership, judgment, courage to act when lives were at stake. His team was conducting reconnaissance when their helicopter developed problems and made emergency landing in enemy territory. Martinez found himself faced with injured air crew and limited supplies and terrain, making immediate evacuation impossible. Working with methodical precision he'd observed during rescue, Martinez triaged injured personnel and began stabilizing them for eventual evacuation. His calm competence impressed his team leader, who noted Martinez performed with skill and confidence of someone with far more experience. When asked how he knew what to do, Martinez's answer echoed Rebecca's lessons. "I learned from someone who showed me being a SEAL isn't about recognition or glory. It's about being ready to do whatever needs doing, whenever it needs doing, for whoever needs it done." Meanwhile, Rebecca had returned to SEAL Team 6, where her naval special warfare experience provided valuable insights into training effectiveness and personnel development. Her assessment report was distributed to special operations commands throughout military, leading to improvements in training protocols and emergency procedures across service branches. But Rebecca's most significant contribution came through continued mentorship of personnel seeking guidance on leadership, tactical decision-making, challenges of serving in elite units. Peterson, promoted based partly on effective leadership during helicopter crash emergency, frequently consulted Rebecca on training and personnel development matters. Their professional relationship had evolved into partnership benefiting both commands. Most important finding wasn't about training procedures or equipment capabilities. Rebecca told him during one coordination meeting. It was about character of personnel we're developing. Her 8 months of observation had confirmed the SEAL community was successfully identifying and developing individuals with mental toughness, moral courage, technical competence required for special operations. But the real test isn't what happens in training. It's what happens when trained personnel face real-world situations that don't match practice scenarios. That's when character matters more than technique. Peterson understood Rebecca was referring not just to combat operations, but countless situations where special operations personnel made difficult decisions with incomplete information and limited resources. The emergency response to helicopter crash was exactly that kind of test. Exactly. And the fact everyone involved prioritized mission success over protocol demonstrates we're developing the right kind of leaders. Rebecca's story continued influencing Naval Special Warfare Command long after her departure. New classes of SEAL candidates learned about the maintenance contractor, who turned out to be one of the community's most elite operators, demonstrating that true capability often hides behind modest exteriors. The lesson wasn't just about not judging by appearances. It was about understanding that the most valuable personnel are often those who serve without recognition, contributing to mission success in ways that go unnoticed by those focused only on obvious displays of skill or authority. Rebecca Hayes had proved that earning respect in the special operations community required more than completing successful missions. It required proving yourself worthy of the brotherhood, defining the SEAL community through quiet service, unwavering competence, and willingness to sacrifice personal recognition for the greater good. Her 8 months as an anonymous maintenance contractor had become more than just an assessment mission. It had become a masterclass in leadership, humility, and the true meaning of special operations service.